Yahweh is not God. Jesus was the snake in the garden, and this turns everything completely on its head. So this is what we're getting into today. Hi, Reverend Grace here. Blimey, sweat on your sweat day. This is definitely a bra and pants day, but I thought I'd put at least one item of clothing on. I spare you sitting here with me in my bra and pants. Oh my God, I went out and did a funeral today as a bearer, front of house for a local funeral director. Oh man, when you're in shirt, tie, jacket, full like thick skirty thing and tights and oh my God, and patent shoes, and you stood out in a graveyard in 33 degrees. Whoa! Yeah. What about her? Anyway, some of you are probably watching this in December and thinking, yeah, anyway, it's not warm. So today, right, where's my whiteboard? Do I need a whiteboard? I don't know that I really need a whiteboard for this today. I'm really just quite distracted by the overwhelming. This is like literally like, it's like being in the Bahamas, isn't it? People pay really good money to be out in temperature like this. But yeah, that's usually when you're lolling around in a chair by a pool. You're not actually having to construct any sort of sentence or work or do anything. And now I can smell smoke. I'm hoping, like, who has a fire today? It's like not barbecue smoke, but anyway, okay. Right, so all credit and deepest thanks goes to Israel Anderson for this information that I'm mostly going to impart with you today, because he, I've been following him for a little while now, suggested by somebody lovely in my comments on one of my videos in the last few months on here. So thank you to them as well. I should look back through my comments and see who it was, because yeah, he's an interesting chap. And interesting because he really he was a pastor for 30 years or 20 years, and he's actually stepped away from Christianity officially, but not Jesus. He's really, I can't remember what sparked it for him, but he's basically looking into things in the Bible now, and he certainly doesn't claim to be a prophet. He's not a prophet. He's just somebody that's actually really invested his whole life, in literally his whole life since he's about 11 years old, reading the Bible, getting into it. And of course, when he went through ministry training, thinking he was a big old Jesus fan, as some people do, he's been led down that road of that teaching and their prescribed way, and over time he's come to see, for one reason or another, not sure why, that yeah, there are things in the Bible that, why are we not seeing these things? How are these things not being spoken about? I would imagine it's because I know, oh sorry, moving the thing with my iPad, you can get into, I'm experiencing this myself at the minute, helping out at a church, you can get yourself into situations, specifically with a church, where you are doing more and more and getting more and more entrenched. And then you're in his position where he then went, you know, fully going up to being a pastor and all the training with that. What you're getting in a spirit, I'm sort of second guessing for him here, but you're getting something really spiritually nourishing, and also it's a sense of community, and people come to rely on you, and you build relationships with people, and yeah, you just kind of get sunk in there. But he's had to step away because he is seeing things that just seem so obvious. You can tell they just seem so obvious to him now. And it's interesting because I've ended up in a position where I've just said yes, and I'm a One Spirit Interfaith minister, and part of the deal with us, we don't have a church as such. We're not an organisation in that sense. They train ministers, you do 2 years, you do lots of theology, but you do lots of different faith path study, you do lots of, it's a really broad spectrum course, and yeah, you're not just fixed in one little box. And So yeah, anyway, that's another thing that I'm struggling with. But I have had notions and things since I was a childhood, in spiritual matters particularly, and Israel really speaks to stuff that I've held in my heart and in my thinking and my understanding for, well, since I was a kid. So it's really interesting to have him. A while ago, it was a guy, my old boss's friend. I was funeral directing for a few years, as well as doing my celebrant work and my ministry stuff. And they introduced me to Bill Donahue. And he's no longer with us, but American chap, and he really put a lot of the Bible stuff on his head. I don't agree with all of his notions. He's very much like the Bible's. In fact, they're quite polar opposites. They stretch your thinking, but in different ways. And Bill, he was very much like, a lot of this is just the Bible's allegorical. Absolutely none of it really happened. And then he speaks as if some of it did happen. So it's a bit tricky. He's a bit he's such a passionate speaker. You have to roll with some of that. Whereas Israel is very influenced by Michael Heiser and what is the other chap called? You know me, I don't remember the blooming names of anybody. I'll put it down there. I can't remember his name. Chuck. Anyway, can't remember. But he's very much like, yeah, what is spoken about in the Bible, this absolutely did happen. This is very real. Now, since I was a kid, I really thought that, not because I was a stupid little child, but because I still have the same sense that I remember having about certain things in the Bible when I was a child, that some of this really is historical. I think it's very layered. I think there are, there's coding in there, gematria and all that sort of thing, because it's Greco-Roman, influenced strongly on Christianity and on the Bible when it was written in Greek. And historical, there are some bits it really did actually happen, and then you've got that allegorical parable sort of layer to it as well. So, and I think it is something that I heard Israel say recently, was that the Bible is not to be believed, it's for us to come to understand the Bible. And I've never heard anyone say that, and I thought, yeah, that's spot on actually. The one thing that me and him really agree on is that Jesus never set out to have a church. He would have mentioned that. He would have made that quite clear. He sent his disciples off to go and spread the word, but it was the teachings that he gave them. I don't think they always quite grasped them, but teachings of things like raising your consciousness and contemplative prayer, going within, and what we're really capable of. Whereas now it's become about spreading the good news of the gospel, but that seems to be more about, Jesus dying for our sins and our salvation, and getting to know the parables, and that sort of a thing. Really investing yourself in this church sort of a system, which it's, again, since I was a child, I've struggled with that. So I have a bit of a push-pull with it. But God has led me to serve where I'm serving at the minute, and that's fine. So, the Lord will lead me where I'm supposed to go. But as I said, that is another side story. Right, I'm looking at my notes here. What have I written down here? So, one of the things, and this was a sermon that the previous vicar at the church a few years ago, I can't remember what bit of the Bible it was, and he was talking about, the usual thing that vicars quite often say. You hear them saying about, or people, apologetics, or people that you hear preaching, and they say stuff like, Jesus the shepherd, and there he is, and his flocks following him. Well, I come from the countryside, and I grew up in a really rural area. A lot of sheep farmers around. My friend worked, and I used to go and help out sometimes on a sheep farm. And I don't ever remember a shepherd ever being at the front. A shepherd is always at the back. The dogs will be up the front. If you're on a quad bike opening a gate, you might be up the front, but generally you're at the back. So yeah, it's just little things like that. I'm not even sure what relevance that's got to this. Anyway, right. Oh, and the other thing, if you watch my this is linked obviously in a playlist now with other videos that I've been doing for a few weeks now. I thought I was going to do a different video today, and it's funny because at the graveyard where I was, the first church I was at today, and I had to set up this little table and take people's names, and I look across, and well, I'll put the photo in. Yeah, so that kind of decided it. No, I'm definitely going to do this video today, and maybe next week or the week after I will do the other thing that I was going to do. I've got a sense that that needs to come out in July, because July could be a hairy month for us all. So yeah, it's a hang on to your hats and put your big girl pants on sort of a month in July. Something, oh yeah, I get the board. Hang on. I know my number one fan, Deborah De Pepe. I've never met the lady. She sounds wonderful. Oh no, I need that. I need to do that. Deborah De Pepe, if I ever meet you, it's like the dentist. You could have a nice one of my cute Jesus stickers. And you, Rachel, Reverend Rachel. I know you're my number one fan as well. I love both of you. Right. So, in a really waffly way, for videos that are bloody nearly an hour and a half long for each one, dear God, I'm really trying to push. If I sound a bit rushed today, it's partly because it's so hot. It's partly because I am really trying to keep this quite a short video today, but I'm waffling already. So let's just try and cut to the what's it. So I still haven't done the Trinity video, but this power of three, we usually have, can you see that? Yeah, Jesus Christ in the one corner, and then we have God, and then we have Holy Spirit. And in these videos, it's looking at the whole thing of the ETs. And this, if we imagine that it's not in a triangle, but if we imagine it's in a triangle, that we have the, oh God, what are they called? The Great Assembly. I think that's how it's referred to in some translations in the Bible. The Sky Council. There's a few different names for this, but basically this is the kingdom. And whether they're on Planet Nibiru or number 4555, which is a Bill Donahue Coptic church thing, you need to go back and watch the other videos. But basically looking at God being Elion. Elion is the Most High. Jesus in the Anunnaki and the Elohim. If you go back, again, you need to go and watch the other videos. But Jesus would basically be Enki, who was the creator of humans and the planet and all the rest of it, terraformed the whole lot and all of that sort of a thing. I'm not sure why Enki was doing that and Elion wasn't doing that, but anyway. And then, of course, you've got Yahweh. Yahweh basically is supposed to be also one of the Great Assembly. When you listen to Israel Anderson's thing, and I'm not sure where he's referencing this from. I don't know whether it's a Gnostic text, because he's not really into the Gnostics, or whether it's something actually from the, when you see the famous stone carving, relief carvings of Enki and Enlil and Anu is the winged disc. And this is a symbol. Graham Hancock talks about this. What's his name? Andrew Collins talks about this. Lots of them, they know about this wing disc. It's a symbol basically for God or Anu. And I questioned last week, and this is something I haven't quite fully prayed into and completely got my head around, but something was tweaking me in the few weeks leading up, in the few weeks that I've been doing this sort of series, that this Elion, Most High, and I don't know if this is just my thinking, but Elion is a name, whereas Most High to me sounds like a title, like God sounds like a title. It's not Mr. God or Mrs. God. you know, like Enki's a name. Jesus Christ is, well, Jesus wasn't his name. He was Yeshua, like Joshua. Others say Jeheshua Benjamin. There's another name. I can't think what the first. Hashemai, is it? Hashemai? Anyway, Christ is not his surname. He's not Mr. Jesus Christ. So I'm wondering if Most High, which is called either Elion is Most High's actual name, or Elion is what translates as Most High, whether actually, because they're both called sons of God, they are, well, for starters, if these two, whether these two are brothers or cousins, which is what I'm questioning, is actually Elion, Most High, is a position. Because Jesus is always banging on about your father's not my father. Now, when he's saying that, he's speaking to a load of blokes in a temple. And he's saying, your father's not my father. And he's having this whole questioning with them about whose father is whose. I think that's in John, the book of John. And what he's saying is the one that you're worshipping is not, it's not my father. Now, whether this Elion is Yahweh's father, or Jesus and Yahweh's father, or whether Elion is Yahweh's father and Jesus actually has a different father. And so this whole kingdom thing, this family system, like our royal family, maybe there are two bods, that two brothers that compete and they swap places with the Most High. So Jesus was actually the firstborn. Now, this is the thing that Israel Anderson talks about, and maybe he gets this from Anunnaki texts. I'm not sure. But Jesus was the firstborn. So this is suggesting that actually they do have the same father. And by their law system, Yahweh was the secondborn. And that means, for some reason, which is actually converse to how our royal families across the world go, as far as I know, all of them, but certainly in European world royal families, you know, the firstborn is the one in line. But for some reason with the Anunnaki, with the Elohim, that wasn't the case. The firstborn gets knocked off the post by the next one, and the next one was Yahweh. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure about all of that because I wasn't there. Or if I was there, I don't remember. So, but yeah, this is... by the by, it has come to be for a lot of people and a lot of different churches that Yahweh is considered, and I'm not going to say it out loud, the Tetragrammaton, because in actual fact, when you learn from what Israel studies are about, look up the videos, Contract for Humanity, and well, there's different ones. There's Eden Part 1, Part 2. There's 2 Gardens, 1 Snake. You watch any of that, you get a pretty... You've got to dig in. It's a bit like my videos. Bloody goes on forever. But fascinating. Like, I'm gripped. I love all of that. And anyway, so... Even the Pope, and I can't remember what, it's not the Pope that we've got now, it's the Pope before the Pope that we've got now, or maybe the one before that, but I think it was Benedict. I think it was the one that we've before the one we got now. And he issued a decree out to all the Catholic churches worldwide to say, this is not our God. And I see why he has been. For starters, he leveled up himself. There's a bit in the Bible and it's something about being in charge of Egypt, or being known in Egypt and being famous. My name will be famous across the world. This is Yahweh saying it to the people that he was speaking about to at the time. And he really wanted to basically usurp the Most High, which was his father. And we assume... when they say father, they literally that is his dad. So it's like the Jupiter. Is it Jupiter overthrowing Kronos, or Zeus overthrowing Kronos? It's been the same in the Greek pantheon, the Roman pantheon, the ancient Egyptian pantheon, all these different pantheons. There's one son that becomes a bit of an upstart, arrogant, and tries to tip the dad off the top. of thinking that he knew best and that he could be God. And so basically, whether all of these guys were at the beginning of creation of the universe and the planet and all the rest of it, Jesus certainly seems to be present at that time. And I'm guessing maybe Yahweh was there as well. But the world seemed to be, like eons ago, under the ownership, the running of, he was in charge. I'm not sure about that in the sense that it seems to be out of Enki and Enlil, if you're relating it to them. Actually, it seemed that Enlil was the one that swung his weight around, but maybe they were on an even keel. But anyway, I don't know. But basically, at some point, Yahweh's the one that's come into being in charge of us mere mortals on this planet. And Israel does a fascinating thing, the video on Contract for Humanity. Oh, it's brilliant. And it just makes such simple sense. When something fits and it feels instinctual in you, it feels like, yeah, that really fits. Yeah, I've not had that to this level where I'm like, oh, at last something makes sense. And we're talking about here, you know, Israel's one of these that he knows some of the Greek and some of the Hebrew, maybe more than he lets on, but certainly enough to be able to translate and do what he's doing with his work on the Bible study. So I don't speak Greek and Hebrew, and as much as I can study, I do rely on these other people who are far cleverer with the languages than me to be able to do that deciphering, which is great. So I am, but again, I don't necessarily take everything that everybody says as read, but this thing of Israel talking about Yahweh not being God. Now then, I've written it down somewhere. I think it's in Hosea. There are 2 bits in the Bible. There are 3 bits, actually. It's in Daniel, it's in Hosea, and it's in Revelations. I need to get the numbers for you because I never... Hosea, Daniel, and Revelations. Now, is it Revelation 21? I'm going to have to find the numbers. So basically, in this bit of the Bible, when we're saying that, you know, how do you know that Yahweh is not God? Well, the one thing that gets my goat about the Christian churches, and I understand why they do it, because you can't be sat reading the whole Bible. I don't know actually when you do Bible study groups, because I've never been, whether you really plough into all of it or whether they handpick bits, because they are run by churches. But when you go to church service, obviously you have to have bits of the Bible, because you can't be sitting there all day reading like a whole book or whatever to everybody. And then also it helps to pick out these bits, because then sermons are written on it. So again, you couldn't like have everyone reading like a whole book or half a book and then also having a sermon on that, and you'd still have to pick a bit out for the sermon. So I get that. I get there's a practical thing. But what happens is it's so taken out of context, it just means nothing. Like, you read this snippet, you've leapt in halfway through a scene or a third of the way through a conversation, and then, or it just cuts off at the end, and you're just like, oh my God, it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. And apparently there are a few different ex-pastors who speak on this sort of thing. Paul Wallace says the same thing. Israel Anderson says the same thing. At least 50%, if not more, of pastors, they don't actually study their Bibles. They don't actually read their Bibles. That's quite a thing. That's quite a thing. So if that's how many pastors don't do it, and now you've got AI that can make you up sermons, and also you've got resources online that they don't even need to read. They don't even need to write their own sermons. They just buy them. You can buy it or get them free off the internet. That boggles my mind. When I lead services of worship, maybe I should go more prepared. I'm not actually allowed to preach as a worship leader. I'm not allowed to preach, but I am allowed to give an address. And I go up before I read the gospel and I face the cross thing, and I just have a little chat with God, and I'm just like, okay, God, I'm going to read this gospel in a minute, and then I'm going to turn around and that's it. I'm reading the gospel, and then I'm going to speak to them. So if you've got anything to say, like, this really is the time. And it works every time. I literally just speak from the heart. I've reduced one church warden to tears. He was that moved. This is not boasting. This is just like, when you speak from the heart, you are filled with spirit. Not in an evangelical, hands clappy, New Life Church way, just like I have a trust in the Lord. I prepare myself, I pray before, and anyway, yeah, I just, I speak to what I understand of it. I speak to what I don't know, sometimes last Sunday, it just came from nowhere. And that just seems, that's not what vicars are supposed to do. They're supposed to have a sermon and it's prepared. But anyway, that's what they do. And I'm not allowed to preach. I'm not allowed to do sermons, and that's fine. That's not why I'm there. Anyway. Right. Jose. Oh, I've done it the Spanish way. Classic me. I was wondering why I wrote that. As you're writing it, I'm thinking, that's not right. Right, so Hosea is chapter 13, and the verses are 7 to 8. And in that, basically God says, and this is really, when it says God, it's probably been translated from the word Elohim. I will be like a lion, like a leopard by the way, like a bear robbed of her cubs. So Hosea has a lion, a leopard, and a bear in the language in that verses 7 to 8. And then it's Revelation 13. Oh, just in verse 2. And this is describing, it's a really famous passage, and it's describing the beast. And interestingly, the beast, as in like satanic, like devil kind of a thing, body like a leopard, feet like a bear, mouth like a lion, and the dragon gives its power. Now, we won't get into dragons today, but yes, Draco, Greek word. Draco is mentioned a lot. Draco comes up again. John, there's a bit of in John. It won't be in probably your Bible when you read, but in Greek, he uses the term Draco 3 or 4 or 5 times when he's speaking about basically Satan, the devil, and relating to that. But yeah, we're not going to get into dragons today because I need to revisit my supernatural video and expand on what I said there, because I don't really think I hammered the point home at all. Now then, it's Daniel 7. Have I got a verse number? Oh, yeah. So Daniel has a vision and where he's described separate beasts, lion, bear, and leopard, and a terrifying fourth beast, which potentially could be a dragon, could be a leviathan, could be all sorts. But there's a connection. So yeah, it's interesting. We're talking about the Yahweh character. We're talking about the demonic force, the Satan, and it's interesting that the one in Revelation where Jesus is giving his revelation to John's supposedly writing Revelations down and sharing it with us. That's that whole book, Revelation, the last one at the end of the Bible, like the end of days or the end of world kind of story stuff. Jesus has given those to John on the Isle of Paphos, something like that. And he's relaying this, the Satan character, basically Yahweh. This is God talking about, but it's, that would be Elohim. And it's describing exactly the same thing. It's basically pinpointing that Yahweh, who people are thinking is God, is actually, the Satan, the Satan character. Now, we have to be careful there because the devil and Satan is we think of that as the man with the pitchfork and the fire and the red and the cape and all the rest of it, when actually Satan is just adversary. So let's go to the Garden of Eden. I can't get my thing off. Where we've got the really important, the tree of life with the fruits that are going to, give you eternal life. And there's the tree of, I don't know that they look like this, obviously, but there's the tree of, knowledge. So the tree of good and evil. And this is the one that, it wasn't apples. Some say it's bananas. I mean, oh my word, there's people get carried away with their trying to prove things with science these days, don't they? But basically, you've got your Adam and Eve, and they have been put in the garden. Well, first Adam was put in the garden, and then Eve was supposed to be created. And then now, people generally up to, for a really long time have thought of God as this omniscient, omnipresent, invisible, not an actual real person. It's a presence, it's a force, it's a source, it's a this, it's a that. But if you read the language in the Bible, especially the bit where it says, and God was walking through the garden in the cool of the evening. Right, well, if he was omnipresent and he was ghostly or spirity, like not a real person, then why would he be walking in the garden? And he is actually walking in the garden because these two hear him walking in the garden, and because they've eaten from this tree, they can hear him and they hide. And that's when they start with the whole fig leaf business, because eating from the tree of knowledge has given them self-consciousness. They're self-aware from this point. They weren't before that. And so God is, let's say he has got a beard, he looks a little bit, and he's a bit pissed because he's like, it's like about the nakedness, like, and they said, we were naked. And he said, the first thing he said was, who told you were naked? Well, you get the impression, because of the way this has been recorded or put in here into this, book called the Bible, that there would only be these two and this one. But that was his first question. Like, who told you were naked? Well, this is where we get what is said to be the snake. He does have a little smile. We always think snakes are quite evil, don't we? And it was the snake. So basically, when he asked Adam completely passes the buck and goes, she told me to eat the fruit. And then he's like, who told you to eat the fruit? And then she passes the buck again. She goes, the snake told me to eat the fruit. Now then, the point of this is that this Yahweh bloke, this God, who people think is God, he has said to Adam, there's one tree you do not eat. So up before that point, they could eat from the tree of life, not a problem at all. Tree of knowledge of good and evil, can't eat like that. Why can't they eat of that tree? Because when they eat of that tree, it said in the Bible, you will become like us. Elohim, the gods, there are many of them, it wasn't just this one. They'll become like us. They'll know the thing of good and evil. And now, when the snake first speaks to these two, I think he speaks to Eve first, because these two are the ones that have the chit chat. And then, Anton Parks is another one he speaks about. I remember him ages ago speaking about the Garden of Eden as well. Anyway, the snake goes, Did God really tell you that? What? Like, and don't forget, when I say God here, it would have said Elohim. They've changed the word. And Elohim is basically the Anunnaki. They're the people, come down. If they're not the Anunnaki, it's someone else that's like E.T., come from somewhere else. And so the snake's like, of course you can eat from that tree. It looks good, doesn't it? And they're tasty, and you can eat. It's not going to kill you. Now then, the snake is the one that's made out to be the liar. And we have always been raised on this, that the snake is the bad guy, that the snake is the one that got these two into big time trouble. But in actual fact, there's only one liar here, and that is Yahweh. And Yahweh is the one who set the rule in the first place. He's the one that put them in this garden. It's an enclosed garden. It's a special space that he has put them in. And he is basically the gatekeeper. And there is a gate. And he sends them out of the gate. And he curses all three of them. And an interesting thing is, right, so this snake, they did not die. They ate of this fruit and they did not die. But what happened afterwards when old Pissy Pants finds out, he gets annoyed and he curses all three of them and he banishes them. So there's no more tree of life fruit for them. They're not allowed that anymore. And he's actually the one that basically sets a death sentence on them then, because they're not allowed to eat from the tree of life. They're banished from the garden. They have to go and eat from the grain and stuff that grows from the dirt. Women that get pregnant, they're going to have real bad pains in labour. It's going to be a nightmare. He has to slave all the time to grow the crops and all the rest of it, because he can't be in the nice garden anymore getting the fruit from the nice like tree of life trees and all the other fruit trees that are in the garden. And this one, the serpent, supposedly a snake, because people go, oh, how do you get a snake talking? Oh, it's a load of old crap. Well, of course it's a load of old crap if you actually believe that bloody is some kind of cartoon snake or a real snake that just starts talking. I mean, yeah, ridiculous. We'll come on to that. It was this one that wasn't lying. This one told the truth. And this one, when he's putting curses on all these three, he says to the serpent, the snake, he says, and I'm going to curse all your offspring, all your, everyone that... Well, yeah, that's interesting. Like, what's the point of cursing? Oh, and also he says about crawling on his belly. Well, if it really was a snake, there's no point in telling a snake that, because a snake is already crawling on a belly. That's the nature of a snake. So, let's have a little look. But this is a big thing. This Yahweh, who some people are actually verbalizing. Somebody did it in a church I was in the other day. At this very start of their sermon, I literally wanted to vomit and leave the church. It was a situation where I couldn't do that. But yeah, it actually does make me feel physically sick now. But anyway, said by somebody that I think should know better. But who am I to say that, to be fair? So, let's have a little drink, because bloody hell. Oh my God, I'm that sweaty. I can't even get the lid off the bloody pen. Right, so, snake. Now, we always think, and snakes are pretty, some people love snakes, don't they? I'm trying to get a better thing in my mind of snakes. That helps, putting a smiley face on, I find. Okay, so this thing of being a snake, now the word that is used there, and I can't for the life of me remember the word, but basically the word can be snake. It can mean something else. So snake, it can mean something else, but also it can mean shining one. Oh, it's like shiny metal. And is it something like knowledgeable? Some wisdom or something? Anyway, there used to be globally, there still is in some places, no doubt, or some people that will be following this, but there was always serpent cults. Now, when we think of cults, we think, oh, that's bad. I think that's partly because the words is not being understood. And also it's because massive organisations like the Roman Catholic Church, the Anglican churches, they would have us really think it's like bred into us now that anyone in a cult is big time no, very dangerous, very bad. Now, there have been cults, exactly that is the case. You could argue that Christianity is a cult because they've taken, their snippets of this to make their story, and they've created a trinity and all the rest of it. You could argue that actually you could say that they're a cult. That word could be used, could apply to them. So that's tricky in itself. But anyway, these the serpent cults, everything was very much there was a thing like Avebury in Britain, and that was Abebury, and Abe, I'm not sure how you're spelling it, but I'm going to say it's either that or it's that. That was serpent. And there's something to do with their ritual that they would actually do in ceremony, but also it was actually a more physical thing. Like they would make huge landforms, earthworks, and with stone to make things that had a circle. It would have had an entrance thing, and then there would be a pathway coming through the land. This would be the serpent, and it's basically they would be rituals and understanding things in the land, all to do with life, rebirth. Serpents were associated with fertility, the circle of life, rebirth, renewal, wisdom. Yeah, the whole lot. It was really a massive thing, and we're talking about this being across like loads of countries, worldwide, in ancient times, right up the way through. Druids had a big thing about it in parts of Africa. I think they still do it today. They nail snakes to trees, and that is something to do with your sins, like a renewal and refreshing, like getting rid of your sins. The Druids used to crucify snakes on oak trees. So yeah, this is different parts of the world. They're doing very similar things. Now, I think it's called Ashes of Angels. I'll have to put it under here. Oh, someone's fire alarm's going off. Ashes of Angels by Andrew Collins. Now, I am such a slow reader. It's taken me yonks to read this book, but I'm absolutely gripped. I love it. Now, this was written a long time ago. I've had this book a really seriously long time. And yeah, reading it now, he has gone to see Zoroastrians. He's looking into the Persian faiths. He's trying to really ascertain, get into the root of who these angels were. There's Devas, and he speaks to, who else does he speak to? The Yazidis and all these different tribes in the Kurdish and Persian and Iraqi and Iranian, all that sort of an area of the world. And he's learning about their different faiths and rituals, but it all comes down to, and it's the Watchers, all of that, but it's the Shining Ones, or Shining One, is a big deal with all of this sort of the culture and the religions and the things that he's looking at there. And I think it was either Noah's son, Noah from the Bible. I think it was Noah's son. When Noah's son was born, he was like literally not just porcelain white, but like really like glowing, like almost like, what's that thing? Like not effervescent? Like those things that are under the ocean and they're, you know what I'm saying though, don't you? I can't think what the bloody word is. But there was somebody in the Persian, way back in the Persian culture, one of the, like, when there was ancient Egyptian kings, there was ancient Persian kings, and they had a son, the king and the who married a princess, and they had a son, and that baby, basically they cast the baby out because they thought that she had been sleeping with aliens, with ETs, and because this baby was born, and it was also like a shining being with these amazing eyes and the rosy red cheeks, just pure as white, but like beaming. And it ends up that there's this amazing bird called the Seymour. I'm probably not saying that right. That's a G. And it's like a vulture, an amazing vulture, and it looks after the baby, with its own baby vultures. And so that bird is either actually a vulture, but it could also actually in real life turn out to be like the Quetzalcoatlus, which is Graham Hancock talks about this, and I can't remember in which book it is, but basically he talks about there's feathered serpents he talks about, and it goes back to like a shaman thing. And again, this is around the world, this is in different parts of the world. Oh, I'll just find you in a minute, I'll find you. It's a shamanic thing. So we're talking about pre-religion and all the rest of it. These shining ones, and it sounds like we're either made by aliens, or we're all aliens, or now we're a mix of aliens and what we think is human. And yeah, it's just it's just such a massive thing to get your head around. Why am I banging on about this? What is the thing with Jesus? So basically, Jesus was the one in the garden. Jesus was the serpent. How do I know that? Oh, I don't know if I have made a note of it. Oh yeah, there's another thing in here actually about the thing with how do you know that Yahweh is Satan? Because basically Yahweh is the one in the garden. Yahweh is Satan. Jesus is adversary. When Jesus is being tempted in the wilderness by Satan, that's basically Yahweh. And if you go and watch videos by Israel Anderson, and I will try and think of the one and put the name up here so you can go and watch it yourself. He explains why it only works. They are only temptations. They are only tests if Yahweh is the Satan figure in those tests in the wilderness. It only works if it's him. He goes into much more depth of it. If I'm trying to explain it to you now, I'm waffling on and you won't get a grip of it. I never claim to be a teacher here, by the way. I like a whiteboard, but I'm not a teacher. I am somebody that studied this sort of thing for, oh my God, like 7, 8 years, 6 years. Anyway, it's a long time. And when I say study, I mean every waking hour of my day is that I'm not having to cook or clean or go and visit a family or write a funeral or conduct a funeral or whatever, do pastoral visits, all of that. I am studying, be it Bible, ancient text, quantum physics, metaphysics, I mean, just all related things, anthropology, archaeology, all sorts of stuff. It all links in. It's fascinating. It is fascinating. I am quite obsessed. There's another thing I found here. It's a thing in David. Have I written the thing here? So basically there are two passages. Oh, one is in the story of Job. And there are two passages. Is the other one in Daniel? Have I written it here? Oh no, I'm talking nonsense. It's a similar story of Job. Right, I can't even read my own notes here. So there's one bit in Chronicles and there's one bit later in Samuel, and it's exactly the same passage, but one they use God's name and one they use Satan, and that is the only difference literally in these two passages. Samuel's emphasises God's judgment on Israel, whereas Chronicles emphasises the role of the adversary in tempting David, as in King David. So yeah, there are just, again, Israel Anderson talks about this in a much easier way to understand. He does mind maps and it's all very organised, whereas I'm a bit all over the shop. But it's fascinating. Two other bits that I need to add in there, which I'm adding this in after the edit. The serpent on the pole. Now, that must be in the Exodus stories, I think, but I might be wrong. But anyway, in the Nakash video by Israel Anderson, there is the talk of the people really wanted food. Yahweh's brought them out of Egypt. He's trekking them across the desert for 40 years. And in that time, they wanted something and he got cross with them. And again, as usual, how can you say that Yahweh is God when this is how he's behaving and treating people and killing millions and starving them all to death and taking them on a journey, as Israel points out, that usually would take, a small group of men 6 days. Okay, so there's a lot of people crossing the desert. 600,000 are named, but that'll be just the men of a certain age. There'll be, women and children and all the rest of it, pensioners, and well, they won't be pensioners. But anyway, he's getting them to cross the desert, and Yahweh, they complain about something. I can't remember if it was food or something else, but anyway, he throws them a load of serpents, poisonous serpents, which are biting them. And so there's a bit in the story where it's a bit sort of, I think Israel is surmising, putting common sense and logic together, that basically Jesus probably told Moses to do this bronze nakash, this bronze serpent, and put it up on a pole, and if they look at that, then it will heal the people. Anyway, watch the Nakash video, because that's a key thing. It's directly relating. There is another part somewhere that I can't think for the life of me where it is, but there's another part where Jesus is directly saying that he's relating himself to being the serpent in the Garden of Eden at the very beginning. So, and you're sort of thinking, well, okay, how can that be? Because, like Jesus was only born that in the New Testament times, not in the Old Testament times. Remember, we are reading a book and trying to work with linear time, as we always do, and how things happen chronologically. But what we're talking about here is, some people have a thing, and I do wonder about this, about the avatar thing, that the spirit, the essence, the thing that has come from God, and I mean true God, I don't mean Yahweh, I mean like source, kind of a point of God, unified field of consciousness kind of a thing, that Buddha and Krishna before him, that there have been masters, ascended masters or masters that have come down here, and that has been, source, God, consciousness in its truest form, to come and teach us and raise our consciousness. Jesus certainly seems to fit the bill of that. So yeah, as would definitely Buddha. Now, whether they're actually like from the same source, because consciousness, if you imagine it like a pool of pool of life. Oh, this is the next day and the sun's just coming up. Beautiful. Again, we tend to think in physical people and separate beings. Yeah, none of these things are quite like that. So it's hard to understand that Jesus was here before we know him to actually be here. But again, this is just another thing to get your head round. You'll have your own feeling on it, your own sense of making sense of that. Oh, now, what was the other thing? Oh, yes, in the Andrew Collins book, something else that I meant to add in earlier when I was drawing the Garden of Eden with the trees. There were things written in ancient Persian texts where it basically talked about the same kind of thing. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's basically like a fruit that you do eat off of the tree. It's a physical thing, and it's like an all-healing. That Simor, that vulture, that knew about, could use herbs and plants and healing things to make people better instantly, that otherwise would have died from serious injuries. Now again, it's written as a vulture. Actually, like, we know what vultures look like, when actually really what the story could have been telling, somewhat like a parable, it's actually talking about that shamanic healer in the bird feathered outfit, which is the same as what they had in South America in ancient times, that Graham Hancock talks about. So yeah, there's just a lot more going on, isn't there? There's a lot more going on, and we're all starting to come to find it. And this is all tying in with us moving into the age of Aquarius, where consciousness is raised, things are becoming more transparent. And it's interesting that in our world, the more that is rolling out, the harsher the constraints and the oppression and the rules and the this. They're trying to keep, keep everyone down, keep everyone a bit thick. But at the same time, it's bursting forth with internet and people, all these amazing people that write books and do all this research, and again the systems of academia and stuff are berating them as, oh, just don't listen to them, it's all pseudoscience. And pseudoscience basically in their language stands for absolute bollocks. Yeah, these people that write these books, I've said this before, they're really digging into, they're not messing about. They don't want to look like idiots. They're really finding stuff and connecting it together, because I think, like me, they look at the broader picture. It's the only way to do it. Anyway, back into the last bit of what I recorded yesterday. Oh, I'll tell you who's another, is he Philip Gardner? 1L. Gardiner. He wrote the book, is it Serpent Grail? He's written a few. I've only listened to this in a mixed up audio book where he's like a guest speaker. He's not actually reading his books. He's speaking as if he's presenting a lecture in the one I've written. But I know he's written Serpent Grail and some other ones. And he's really fascinating. If you want to learn about the serpent cults and how this is all around the world and how it connects together, he's an interesting guy. Now, he brings in the Jesus thing, and so does Israel Anderson pinpoint that Yahweh, that Jesus, Yeshua, he is the serpent. He's the life giver. He was the one that, he knew his way around the garden because he was the one that created it. And Yahweh's the one that's taken over the power of the world. And the thing in the contract for humanity is that basically when Jesus talks about, I came here to fulfill the law, Yahweh's a big old lover of the law. And he basically came to fulfill the law, and dying on the cross was a part of it, to release humans, us lot, from this contract. So, yeah. He is the serpent. The serpent is not the evil one. The serpent is not the liar. And that's the bottom line. So, do with that what you will, people. Go and look stuff up. And, yeah, explore for yourselves. Peace be with you. Thank you for watching. Give it a like and subscribe. Take care.